In this pod, we'll find out about the poet, playwright, and novelist Jackie Kay. Jackie Kay was born to a white Scottish mother and Nigerian father in Edinburgh and was adopted as a baby by Helen and John Kay, a white Scottish couple. At the time, when the subject of adoption wasn't really spoken about, Kay drew on her own story to create the Adoption Papers, a poetry collection which is written in the voices of the birth mother, the child, and the adoptive mother. Kay returned to the theme of adoption in The Red Dust Road, an autobiographical account of the search for her birth parents, which she described as a love letter to her white adoptive parents. Kay's work explores big issues including gender, ethnicity, racism, and cultural difference. Politically engaged from a young age, Kay would attend protest marches and write political poetry. Her father John worked for the Communist Party of Great Britain, and her mother Helen was the Scottish secretary of the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament. It's no surprise then that Kay doesn't shy away from political subjects in her writing. In 2016, Scotland's First Minister appointed Kay as the third Scots Macker, a position similar to the UK's Poet Laureate. The role of the Scots Macker is to celebrate Scotland's rich poetic heritage and create new poems in response to important events in Scotland. Kay has expressed a desire to embrace the political nature of the Macker's role by bringing poetry into Holyrood, the seat of Scottish Parliament, and in 2019 she wrote the poem The Long View to celebrate its 20th anniversary. The Scottish Government also sends out baby boxes filled with essentials for newborn babies, which include a copy of Kay's poem Welcome Wee One. Kay's subject matter is wide-ranging. She has written about colonial history and the transatlantic slave trade in her poetry collection, The Other Lovers, and her novel Trumpet was inspired by the life of Billy Tipton, a jazz trumpeter who was revealed to be biologically female after he died. Kay's work is warm, funny, tender, and accessible, and aims to help people to make sense of a world that can be hard to understand. Using Scots dialect and English in her poetry, she has written about the relationship between language and belonging and is interested in the ways that people's identities change when moving from one country to another. She explores this in her poem Old Tongue. When I was 8, I was forced south. Not long after, when I opened my mouth, a strange thing happened. I lost my Scottish accent. Words fell off my tongue. Discovering the work of Audre Lorde helped Kay to accept the different facets of her identity. Lorde, who later became a friend, told her, "You can be black and Scottish. You don't have to choose." Her poem, In My Country, articulates the feeling that non-white Britons experience when asked, "Where do you come from?" So when she finally spoke, her words spliced into bars of an old wheel, a segment of air. "Where do you come from?" "Here," I said. "Here, these parts." Kay writes beautifully about loss too. In Trumpet, she writes, "Loss isn't an absence after all. It is a presence, a strong presence right next to me. I look at it. It doesn't look like anything. That's what is so strange. It just fits in." And in her poem Darling, written in memory of her dear friend, the poet and novelist Julia Darling, ends with the lines, "The dead don't go till you do, loved ones. The dead are still here holding our hands." Kay was inventive as a child and enjoyed writing as a way of finding a voice for her silent self. She claims of poetry, "It says things that you otherwise can't say, expresses what can't usually be articulated, gives a voice to the voiceless."